What, 73 hours? Is that the countdown for the Mountain West football championship game as Boise State goes for a three-peat of Mountain West championships? Prater on the ball game. This is Ask the AD with JD. We're joined in studio. Boise State Athletic Director Jeramiah Dickey. JD, you got a dog?
I don't. I have a 7-year-old.
Okay. We're talking about, like, if you remember your pet's birthdays, and most of our listeners, 100%. Do you ever remember a pet's birthday? JD,
I don't. I have to be careful what I say about this. I was talking to someone about dogs and like growing up with the dog. Like our dogs didn't come inside. I don't remember it ever impacting a vacation. It probably be considered illegal now. We just put out a bag of food and the neighborhood kids would come over. So no, I was never a dog person, but we had a ton of animals. My sister was, and she had a bunch of cats, and we did have a dog, but I wouldn't say it was a family dog per se.
All right. Now you got to,
but I do know after seeing yesterday's announcement and the number of people that asked me, like, is Blitz coming back? Like, how awesome is that? That is something that's, that differentiates us. And, and for Blitz to come out of retirement, obviously it's a special game, but it was, that was one of the questions we talked about on Sunday when we knew we were going to be hosting, can Blitz, we don't obviously own Blitz, but can Blitz come back? And
Jeremiah,
did you have to work out one of those contract one day to retire deals?
Yeah.
By the way,
NIL goes both ways.
Yeah,
this rev share, I'm like, God, how much is this going to cost me? I'm stretching dollars.
By the way, I think you put out that press release in the middle of our show, and it became a major distraction on our show. So if you could do that outside the 3 to 6 window, unless it involves like a football player or something.
He's not doing that.
I know. It was kind of funny, and we all laughed at that yesterday. That was kind of cool.
We blame Coots. Coots probably did it on purpose because you guys were
blame everything on Coots.
Yeah.
He's trying to get RG3 on this show for us, though.
So
don't blame everything on Coots. We're trying to get the former Heisman. He's calling the game. RG3 will be in town. We're going to try to get him on Idaho Sports Talk. Look, last year you had to sell this thing out, and you did. Like Jeremiah, the wizard of sellouts, whatever you want to be called, whatever we're doing here, right?
It takes a team.
You had Ashton Genty, and you had a CFP trip with a win. It's probably the easiest sellout you've ever had to finagle in a week. Not the case this year, I'd imagine, but how challenging is this for you right now? We're trying to sell as many tickets as we can and get that place back.
It's challenging. We're over 60%, so I firmly believe that we're going to get there. I believe in Bronco Nation. I was proud of our students. I know that there's always going to be challenges, but, it means something here. And, I know it means something to our student athletes. I know it means something to our staff. We work really hard and, you get extra football, you sign up for 6 games, you get a 7th. And I understand there's a lot, to consider, but it's important to us. I know it's important to Bronco Nation. This would be our 15th straight sellout. I believe the record is 19. We're bar raisers, and we've established this standard that we sell out Albertson Stadium. That home turf, that blue turf, is a competitive advantage to us, and we need Bronco Nation. I don't know how many false starts we had last time UNLV was here, and especially last year for the Mountain West, and you guys may have it for the Mountain West Championship, but it absolutely impacts the game, and it is a competitive advantage for us. And what better way to go out on the blue with Idaho, weather and playing UNLV, who has done just a phenomenal job the last 3 years. And, our last Mountain West Championship opportunity, and to finish with a possible 3-peat, you got to go out and play the game. And I know UNLV is going to come prepared, but what an exciting time. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to host the Mountain West Championship once again.
Does it mean anything different to you or more that it is the last game between Mountain West opponents involving Boise State and the chest and the logo? I mean, the next game we watch at Albertson Stadium, there's going to be a Pac-12 logo right there. This is the last time people have a chance to watch a game with that logo and all that. Throw that into your little emotional crock pot. Does that add anything more to this game? It's the last one in this league?
Yeah, I'm not sure it adds, anything for the team per se. I mean, it's 1-0 mentality, and they're going to prepare to go out and win a game just like UNLV is. And, you know, maybe for fans and obviously, you know, we've had a good run in the Mountain West. I want to finish everything strong. You want to leave something better than you found it. And, you know, I'm grateful for that opportunity. I mean, winning's hard. You guys have heard me talk about that. And to get to this moment, and especially with the peaks and valleys of this season and some of the things we've navigated, the adversity you know, and how we've stepped up and found a way into this moment. You know, that's what matters to me. I want to take advantage of every opportunity. We are here to serve this community and to provide an experience. And I'm excited to do that on Friday. I think it means something if you're a Bronco. And, you know, obviously with our standard of excellence and competing for championships, you come to Boise State to compete for championships. You've seen it in soccer. You saw volleyball made it to the Final Four in their tournament. And you come here to compete for championships and for football to have that opportunity and for us to go out, you know, of our last Mountain West official game doesn't mean we won't play them in the future. But, you know, for us to end on a high note, that's important.
Last year, and Jeramiah Dickey is joining us, Boise State Athletic Director, getting you ready for Boise State UNLV, 6 o'clock Friday, Mountain West Championship game at Albertson Stadium. Get your tickets now. So much was made of last year, and this town will never, ever, ever forget you throwing the greatest party this city has ever seen in terms of that. I mean, there's been a lot of memorable moments in that stadium, but that's number one right now. In terms of my opinion, just everything that happened, everything that mattered. And you could break this thing up into 10 different chapters. Football, non-football, and so many other different things. I need you to pick one moment. Maybe it was hugging your kid or hugging Spencer or, you know, fighting your way through the crowd to get up on the stage to get a trophy. What was your single favorite moment from last year, the 4-hour window that we all enjoyed inside that stadium?
It was probably, and it didn't last very long, but it was when it came to, you know, when we finally, like the game was in hand. And
late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, late in the fourth quarter, and the clock is ticking, and you sit there and obviously you guys know I'm an emotional person. But you think about you can't forget where you come from. And, you know, to have that opportunity as an athletic director and to be, you know, at an unbelievable place like Boise State. And that wasn't that didn't happen overnight. That was earned and a lot of long nights and tears and blood and sweat and from a team standpoint, from a department standpoint, from a community. I mean, someone asked me the other day, like, you know, how hard was it to sell out 6 games? You remember when I first got here and to get to that point, you know, I know there's this perception we were born on third base, and that's not the reality. And so in that moment, when everything comes together and how hard that season was, and, you know, we having a bullseye on our back and, you know, and the expectations, pressure is a privilege. And then, you know, that it's done. And you know we're going to the CFP. That was an emotional moment. And
by yourself for
I was by myself, and I walked away from everyone, and, you know, it just kind of hits you. You know, I put my heart into this job. I absolutely love our team. I love our staff. I love Bronco Nation. I love this place. And it hit me. And then within like 30 seconds, thousands of people were on me, and people were yelling at me to get to the stage. And so it didn't last very long, but for that 30 seconds, it was just a cool moment. You got to appreciate that. Winning is hard. And, you know, I've been a part of a lot of programs and you know, that was a memory that I'll forever have.
Let's dive into it real quick. I know the Friday game is important, and it's one game at a time, 1-0 mentality. What's next? But as you and your fellow Pac-12 athletic directors continue to build this new conference in 2026, what's the best way? What is Jeramiah Dickey proposing for a championship game?
Oof, that's a good question.
I mean, I know there's no details, and I'm not asking you to give me a final answer, but where should we start this conversation?
My probably preference, guys, and understanding I'm one of many votes, and you know, and we're building the plane while we're flying it, so there's still a lot to be determined. But, you know, I like the home field, whether it's our place, someone else's place, and making sure that you can pack a stadium in. I think that bodes well for our brand. I think that bodes well for television and what people see. And so and maybe it's because I'm biased. Like, we've hosted quite a few of these, and, you know, and that is our standard. You know, we're here to compete for championships, and, you know, and I love playing on the blue. So maybe there's a little bit of that in it too. But there's a lot to consider, whether it's media rights, whether it's, getting into certain markets that are of value that could be impactful from a recruiting standpoint. That's impactful for the overall brand of the Pac-12. So there's a lot to consider, but that is something that, when I think about it, like I love football, and to be able to get another game on the blue or have those opportunities year in and year out. I think it's good. And I think also, trying to take into account the fan experience. When you host it at a, on campus site, there's a little more control over what you can do. And I think that's important. And, I don't, I also try to take into account, and understanding it's not cheap to travel and whatever, like for at least one of the fan bases, you're not having to travel. And when you think about bowl games and CFP, and the goal is to have our best in the CFP every year, having it at a home site, at least, provides, and usually if you're hosting, that means you're probably the better team, in terms of how the formulas work out and whatnot. I think that helps the fans too, because having to turn around and commit to season tickets and then commit to not just buying a ticket, but traveling to said game, that is hard, and then you think about CFP or a bowl game or whatever is next after that. So all to say that.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I mean, that's a great experience, and your risk reward of hosting it at home is a heck of a lot more than, maybe a neutral site where half the people show up, but it'd be cool. I know it's really cool that Boise State's going to have 99% of the fan base on Friday, but championship games are meant to be festive, and that's what the beautiful part of college football is. And if you put this sucker in a neutral site, even if you put it in Vegas, there's no guarantee that there's going to be 20, 30,000 people in there.
Right.
I mean, it's obviously going to be either on campus or a neutral site somewhere.
Right.
A neutral site conversation would probably include a Vegas type of a situation. So that's a tough one. Have you guys even come anywhere close to deciding that, or is that just, have you even talked about it?
Yeah, no, we've definitely talked about it, and I would say we're close, but there's, like I said, there's a lot to consider. And
do you feel like your peers kind of feel like you do, including your TV partners?
I wouldn't say, like, we haven't gone out around the room and said, all right, raise your hand if you're in favor of this or that. Like, it's been more conversational, and our media partners are, a part of that, and the conference office, and even presidents to a certain extent, depending on what meeting it is. It's been more conversational. We want to make the best decision for us, and, and that's important. So there's still a lot to be determined. But I would expect that decision to come sooner than later. That's in terms of looking at other facilities and whether neutral site or home sites, there's a lot to navigate regardless. And so the earlier you make that decision, the better. But
we were talking earlier, when you guys decide to paint the Pac-12 logo on the blue.
Yeah.
Prater and I want to be a part of it. We want to do our show from the blue that day and document it and all that stuff. So we're going to be on touch. Right. We got some fun stuff coming up this summer with the Pac-12. July 1st, Prater?
We want to do 2 shows on the blue next year, July 1st, and then the day you paint the logo.
All right.
We want a paintbrush. We want to go out there and paint the last 3 strokes or something.
Well, remind me, and more importantly, talk to Coots.
Yeah, get on the calendar.
But yeah, we got a lot coming up. I mean, obviously July 1st and going into the Pac-12, and we want to finish this Mountain West, season strong. We also have new blue turf going in, and we also have some events going in, that will be there this summer in Albertsons. And
will the new blue turf have the Pac-12 logo embedded in it, or do you have to paint onto it? You know that?
We can do both. We want to leave ourselves the ability, and we've invested into, like how we painted the orange, this year, because it does lose its color. So we can do both. I want to make sure that, that we do what's best, and it ultimately, it's not going to cost us that much one way or another. You want it to look professional and look good.
Yeah.
So I would assume that we'll put it on there and to where it's embedded, so to speak.
JD, is the logo, like the Mountain West allowed all the teams, and this is really nerdy. I know we've gone down this logo radio rabbit hole, but I've wondered this as well. Like the Mountain West allowed teams to use its logo in their colors. The first year of the Mountain West, I don't know if people remember this, but Kellen Moore's last year, Boise State played on the blue with that ugly purple Mountain West logo on it, and it was a massive clash. It just didn't look good, a purple logo on a blue field, and people bitched about it. And the next year, and they asked the league next year, sure enough, there's an orange and blue logo there. So I'm wondering, like the Pac-12 logo, it kind of has a generic kind of mountain logo. Are they? That's probably what it's going to be, correct?
Yeah, it's a good question, guys. You know,
Yeah.
some of these things are going to, in our case, Coots and Cody and my team. I just, I'm 30,000 feet of, we're going to have a logo on there, and then they're figuring out what the branding is
All
going to
good.
look like. And, but I think that's a good question. Like I've always known it as you've had your team logos. That's, that's probably something that Coots and them are fully aware of and in the weeds on. And, but I get it. You don't necessarily want it to clash. You want it to look normal, but the brand of the conference is also important. And when you think about the national brand, I think, the Pac-12 just put something out, the anniversary of its history. And that's important to us. That was a part of our decision, making process. We wanted to align with an elite brand and something that had history and tradition like our brand does. And especially something that's national, and you want to protect that as much as you can too.
Let's talk. The buzzword the last couple of days is the college football calendar, and we all know that college football is broken. Everybody's trying to fix it. There's a million ideas out there. You're one of the power brokers. You sit at the tables. You have these meetings, whether it's signing period during championship week or transfer portal during the postseason or all this other crap that's going on that's just kind of screwing up this beautiful sport. If you had one big idea, because it's going to take a lot, and you're not going to be able to completely overdo college football, but what's your one big idea that's realistic that can fix the college football calendar?
Oof. I don't know. I was in favor of going to the one transfer portal.
That certainly helps. That's a great start.
I think that helps.
The timing's kind of screwy, but
the timing is, and I just don't know if there's one big idea. I think, I think we're short-sighted in our decisions, and the impact that it's going to have. I always look to the NFL, and you don't have this happening. The question is why? I'm not that smart. Like, seriously, question why? It's because they have parameters and guardrails in place that protect the brand. And with the lack of unity that we have in our industry and the lack of collective bargaining,
So true.
And there's so many different questions. It's not a cut and paste of what the NFL or a professional league does. And we still have this academic component that is important to us and a big part of our why in preparing our student athletes for life. But I'm not sure there is one decision that would positively impact. I think it's a couple of decisions that would lead to something that makes sense. Like if you think about it and look, I'm not ever going to judge someone for making a decision that they feel is best for them. That is their decision. But when you think about it, that someone is put in a position to have to make a decision and leave their team during an epic historic season with the chance of winning a national championship. And look, I know where he's going, and I know they have the resources and the history and tradition and success and all of that. And so, can he get back there? Yeah, absolutely. But there are no guarantees in that, and so for him to have that opportunity and then ultimately have to make a decision. And I have so much respect for their AD, and I think a lot about what I would do in that case.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. What, I mean,
that's I like their AD a lot, and I think he made the right decision. Once someone
this AD to not let him coach.
Yeah, not let him coach.
Correct. At some point, you're either in or you're not. And, and we're in a competitive industry, and, I think there are guardrails that could be in place, but part of that, I mean, you look at when some of the coaches were terminated, and the process, how it started. And a lot of that ties into the recruiting and signing day tomorrow and rev share and so on and so forth. There are some decisions that we could make as an industry, but you would have to have unity across all conferences. And that is really challenging.
Yeah.
That's the one thing the NFL has that we don't. They protect the shield.
Yep.
And in many cases, Roger has more power than the ownership themselves.
College football, they just protect themselves.
They protect themselves, and every AD, every president, every commissioner is doing what is best for them.
Yeah,
and I just,
well,
that's counter to who I am. It takes a team and let's create a solution that fits, and it is possible. But does it put a conference at a competitive disadvantage? Maybe. Yeah. Does it, some conferences have a competitive advantage right now. There's a reason they don't want some of these rules changed, or, because they have the money and the resources, and they can impact their success. So I get it on both sides. But I care too much about this industry. We have value. I care about these kids. I care about these coaches and their families and the staff that serves them and the fan bases. And there is a solution, but you have to get the right people in the room. You have to have unity.
Guys, buy tickets to the Mountain West Championship game. If not, the next time you're going to see Boise State is what, Memphis coming to the Blue in 2026. JD, you sold it out last year. You got the streak going. I know you're running out of here, but before you do, just one more. Hey, we got to sell this thing out.
We have to. That's
How do they get them?
Well, look, that's the expectation. That is the standard. And we, not just department, not just football, this community, this fan base, it's all of us. We have set that standard. And I believe in Bronco Nation. 15 straight or 14 straight sellouts for our students, I think. Is that where we're at? We have an elite fan base. And so I do believe that we are going to sell this game out. It's a hard ask. We're turning around tickets. I mean, we've sold a ton of tickets. Yeah. And, I think we have less than 10,000 left.
They're hard to do. And so, hours you get.
Right. Yeah. We're going to put our best foot forward. And you've seen the social media, me getting on media. We're going to continue to tell that story. This is the standard. This is the expectation. And it is a competitive advantage for us. And that's the idea behind hosting a championship. And when a championship doesn't matter, you have to question that. Championships matter. That's why you're in this. You want to compete. You want to be the best. And however anyone thought the season was supposed to go, didn't go, whatever, winning is hard. We have a standard here. And I fully expect 7 games, 7 sellouts.
That sounds good and all. And I know I'm the negative guy. And I put out that tweet the other day about the stadium. Did you really have to go on Twitter, though, and correct it and tell everybody you were correcting my tweet?
I was expecting this question, Prater. Look, I'm always, whether people like it or not, we have a choice. We can approach it in a positive way or a negative way. And I'm always going to approach it in a positive way. And, we are trying. It's good for you all. It's good for us. It's good for this community to sell out this game. And I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. And I know my team is as well. And I know it's important to Spencer and those student athletes, and those guys are going to play on the blue for the last time. And so I'm going to be vocal and push and promote as much as I possibly can, because it does matter. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm a Bronco, and that's why I'm still here. And I'm grateful, to be the leader of a department like this, where you have high expectations. And like I said, I understand there's been peaks and valleys, but man, I mean, if a season like this doesn't define what an actual Bronco is, I don't know what does. People sold us down the river and maybe questioned, rightfully so, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I see the work that's being done, and I was so proud of that team on Friday last week and how they battled and they didn't break. They maybe bent along the way, but they never broke, and they believed, and they come out victorious. And God, that makes me so proud. You learn a lot in specifically what you're made of through adversity, and pain is a privilege, because I've learned so much from that, more so than the success. And a season like this is what really propels you to what's next.
JD, you could still win 10 games for crying out loud. Holy cow.
And think about that, and I'm sure there's a stat out there that's in terms of the average wins that we've had over the course of time. But when you go to 28 straight bowls and, now an opportunity, I think, Johnny, you mentioned the 3rd straight championship. And I mean, how awesome is that?
Three-peat, man.
Three-peat.
Yeah.
That's important to us. And it takes a team. We need Bronco Nation, and I'm excited to see him Friday.
That's why you listen to Idaho Sports Talk. Ask the AD with JD, special edition, Prater in the Ball Game, KTIK, the ticket.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studio, this is Ticket Traffic.
When traffic's a mess, remember your Medicare doesn't have to be